Hey, there it is. Hey, folks, I'm Steve. With me is Ziggy.
Um,
And this is
hey,
the
what's up?
Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness. And we're going to talk about drugs. But, I don't know, good ones, though. I don't know. We've talked about drugs before, and we'll probably talk about it again. But we were just talking amongst ourselves about, like, prescriptions and just dealing with the fucking process of getting two prescriptions and finding a prescription that's actually going to do something for you. And like, we're not doctors, so we can't tell you that part. But like, we've
What
been
works
through the
for us?
process of trying them all, a bunch. So that's kind of what we want to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, like I was just talking, I like probably a week ago, I got a new prescription for citalopram, and I was on regular citalopram, which is a generic for Celexa,
Mm.
and that wasn't working too well. I actually think that one was doing damage, and I looked it up, and for long-term use of citalopram was like a bunch of things that I had. Like I got way mad.
Yeah,
and agitated and angry and
I
I
ended up
mean
quitting
just
mine because for similar reasons. Because I was like, why am I so fucking pissy? And like, I felt like my anxiety was through the roof for some reason. And
right.
then when I quit taking the antidepressants, they went away. But then, like, when you go through it, some of those antidepressants have like elements of speed in it. And so if you're
Mm,
already an anxious type, a little bit of speed in the system is not going to help. And then,
right.
so I was getting like, it was doing a lot of what it was supposed to do. And then the little bonus effects were causing me to like, but again, that's just what's in my head. And like,
Right.
we have
And
these
not,
similar
what works
things.
for you isn't going to work for me. In my like I have through the VA I have a psychiatrist and then a counselor or a psychologist, I don't know which one.
Mm.
And the counselor said, the drug should take you 50%, but you need to take yourself the other 50.
Yeah.
But getting to that 50%, I mean, it's been 12 years for me, and I would you say 12 years for you since
Yeah.
you know getting PTSD, and now with this drug, I'm trying to or finally getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I want to talk to people again. Oh, everything's not so bad. Oh, I don't want to kill myself every day.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Oh, and it's so weird too, being like slightly more like I'm usually Mr. Doom and Gloom, and then when people want to like talk to me about the apocalypse, I'm like, well, we'll get through it, and I'm back to like I do have some of those elements of my old self where I have that like I don't know. It's interesting too because I look at like the abuse I did myself in that process of where it just confidence went through the ringer, and
Yeah.
in that process, like, and I think that's part of the like the 50% is because the drug's only going to do so much. It can only squeeze this much lemon juice onto it. It can only add this much
Right.
sugar. Like, you've got to figure out some of this shit for yourself. And then it's also, I mean, I don't know if that's the best metaphor, but it's what we got, folks. But it's like because you're what you're dealing with is interesting. Like there's mechanical shit that is pretty much common for everybody, but then there is the prism of your perception, which is a fun hippie thing to say. But the entire universe fits itself through your eyeballs and into the back of your head. And so no matter what those drugs are doing, you're still going through that process of like if you're filtering information, and I'm a negative Nancy, and so I see the fault in things to such a degree that it's crippling. And
Right.
you have to figure out like, oh, I'm doing it again. And then let the drug work. Because in some cases, you may be fighting the drug. It may be getting you there, and then you're fighting the other. You may be squashing it back in. And it's not to say you're a dickhead for doing this. This is the disease. This is how this thing works. It's
But
designed to
it's hard
protect
to
itself.
know what's you and what's the drug, and like I was talking to Steve earlier, or you earlier, and I said I finally have a doctor that is willing to, for lack of a better word, experiment with me
It's what you want, man.
to see what works. And this was the first one where I go after a week or two, you go, no, this one's not working. She go, okay, well, let's try this.
Because the
And
confident doctors are like, and God bless you if you're a doctor, and thank you for your efforts, and
right,
thank you for your
right,
service. But like, confidence is problematic in healthcare because you're not certain. Like, I get that you have an idea, but you're not. No one is that certain, and like that's something that kind of. And I think I gained the benefit when I had providers who were like, yeah, we don't know. And that was upsetting at first because I was like, we pay you to know, right? And they're like, no, you pay us to look into this shit. And I think some of it too is like expectations you have on the system. Like that was a big thing for me. What I expected out of the VA, which, I mean, had I listened to any of my predecessors, I wouldn't have expected that much. But like, I'm getting terrific service for what I'm getting. I'll give you that much. But like, it could be better. But so could a bunch of shit. So.
Well, and it all depends on where you go too. Like I hear war stories about Detroit, but then I hear other people that go, "No, it's great. Everything's cool."
Right.
And like where I go in Saginaw, I have never had a problem at the VA, not once.
And I think some of the war stories about Detroit caught up to Detroit, because what I've been hearing too is that Detroit's getting its shit together, and there's still like the problem with any bureaucracy is that it's designed to protect itself a little bit, and so it protects its inefficiencies. Like it's a thing, but they're starting to get those kinks out, and like there's a lot of weird rules in place of like you can't get someone in trouble for this, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. There's union here, and it like there's so much complication involved. Where like, because I've talked to a lot of doctors where it feels like I think they think their hands are tied in some cases, where they know there's better courses of action, but they only have a list they're allowed to pick from, and. You know, and that's another thing too. But like,
but getting back to like the medicine, and
Please.
How you feel if you're locked inside yourself, your medicine isn't working.
Right.
I mean, don't think it's all you and it's all doom and gloom. Like we were both at points where you're like, just take me now.
Because if you're putting in effort and it's not working, don't be like, oh, my effort sucked. No, it's probably not working. Like, and we've been in that spiral of like, oh, it's probably not working because I'm a piece of shit. Because that's like a default for me, at least. Where I'm like, oh, because I'm a dumb fuck. That's why none of this works. Right. Which, come on, let's be serious.
But you need to start like noticing what your triggers are. You know, if you can figure out what your triggers are.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Just like if anything touches my ankles, like you let me know ahead of time and I'll be fine. If you're like, hey, or if I'm like asleep and you're waking me up kind of gently by the ankle, that's okay. But if like a box grabs me by the ankle while I'm walking, I fucking freak out. I start punching shit. It is, and while I'm doing it too, I'm in this process where I can catch it now, and I'm just laughing at this dumb gorilla who's like, "What the fuck is this thing doing?" And right. But I think I don't know. Maybe it's the expectation part of like, I have to let go of the part that I can't control, and I have to stop kicking myself in the dick for not being able to control it because it's uncontrollable.
With like this medicine I'm on now, I know the old medicine. Let's just say that it felt like, you talk about the gorilla. It felt like I was locked inside the back of my head watching this gorilla do all this stuff and not being able to do anything to stop it.
Right. Dude, I'm going to find an illustration and share it and we can keep talking. But for those of our listeners, it's from Earth X. It's a comic book series. And I think it's the Earth. Yeah. I will show you guys. It feels kind of like this sometimes. Go live. And then got a pig on the screen here. But in the Earth X series, it was a cool short series. But the Hulk and Bruce Banner became separated from each other. And the Hulk was this big, giant gorilla. And then Bruce Banner became a blind little boy. It was a weird story, but I relate to the Hulk a lot more than I realize. And it's not even one of my favorites, but the more I just think about the Hulk, like, it definitely is a bit of a favorite because, like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Right. And if you're like this, like I see spouses on some of these chat rooms going, I don't know what to do. If he keeps being like this, and like I'm getting divorced right now, or going through it, and it's because of my PTSD, and it's because I don't have the right meds, and I need to take responsibility for that other 50% that I need to do on my own, which is fine. But I needed to get to a point where it would let me work on my 50%.
Right.
So if you're mad beyond belief, switch your meds.
Right.
Or talk to your doctor.
For most assuredly, don't try anything, switch anything, do anything until you talk to somebody. But like,
right.
Don't think that there's a one med and the doctor did all their research and that's why they've heard of this one and so they gave it to you. And then if that doesn't work, they're gonna try another one. And
well, like they gave me
sucks, but do it.
What am I? Risperidone.
Yeah, I think I had that way back when.
And that's an antipsychotic. You know, I mean, that's how angry I used to get.
And like those
not
drool bucket
angry,
meds
but just angry.
are
but I mean
aggressive, but sometimes you need it.
Yeah, I mean, I would not. I had no. Well, I never really had a filter, but
yeah, mine broke a long time ago.
You know, you start trouble where there's no trouble.
Yeah. Everything I would find myself like, especially because I'm one of those types who likes to explore a thought, and then if I couldn't articulate it, I would find myself, and I realized this is what I was doing, and so I could finally kind of start stopping myself. But I was starting these weird arguments out of nowhere, only to explore the emotion or the thought. Like it had nothing to do with anything. It wasn't topical. It wasn't on point. It wasn't on subject. But I realized like I was beating around the bush to find a way to say like, oh, this is how I feel about a thing.
Right. Well, and the other part is the counselor part is finding one that you're comfortable with. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't like this person. Yeah. I can't relate, or I don't like them. Like I had one counselor at the VA, and she thought she could diagnose me in one sitting.
Yeah.
You know, first meeting, and I'm like, nope, I'm done with her. You know, she's not going to be that person that's going to pigeonhole me. You know, I need somebody to help and listen and critique and give. So I found one that's great now.
Yeah,
I mean, she's fucking awesome. But you don't want to tell your secret stuff or the stuff that bothers you to the people that you don't like. So if you don't like them, don't go through it. Ask for someone else.
Yeah, and it's hard to develop that muscle of, you could be someone who, like, the weird shit that I've shared on the show isn't a natural thing. I'm an extremely shy person. There's very few photographs of me. I hide in pictures. I hide at parties. I hide everywhere. Yeah. I'm a very shy person. But I found value in just exposing my belly and just saying, here's what it is, fucking deal with it. And
I found a restraining order, but whatever.
I know. It's in the same pocket. And that takes a lot. And I don't know that I would have ever had that had I not been able to do that with a therapist or with a mentor or okay, maybe I can't afford therapy. Maybe you can check into it. But in the meantime, you can always find a mentor. You can find somebody to,
Well, and like you and I, if I got a thought or you got a thought, we call each other.
Yeah.
And you and I can, if you got a buddy, call a buddy, go, listen, man, I don't mean to sound weird or anything, but I'm going through some shit. I need some help. Just listen.
Right. And if I get this thought all the time of like, well, I don't want to bug them. Well, they're probably busy. Do it anyway. Because you're usually wrong. I'm usually wrong.
If you're reaching out, that's a good thing. Just do it.
Yeah.
And like Steve and I and Paul and all the other guys, there's times we got to disappear because we're dealing with our PTSD stuff. I mean, we just can't.
Veterans are a lot like cats. Like if we get wounded, we're going under the porch for a couple of weeks, and we'll just let you know when we're healthy again. We're like, all right.
So I tell Steve, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going out. I'm not in a good place. Okay, well, let us know when you are. And
it's got to like
always been.
It makes running a business weird, which is one of the things and we've talked about that in some previous shows. But again, like it's the 50% part. It's the expectation of. If I expect us to run like some Fortune 5, I don't though, because I don't even like those companies. Like I like the fact that, hey, I'm not feeling it. All right, I'm out, and then that's just how we do shit. Because like, I'd rather have people who can stay on mission, and there's no way any of us can stay on mission if every time one of us checks out, I'm like, well, what about this and what about that? Like, it doesn't do anyone any good because it just makes them feel worse, and it just. Right. It's a whole shit show. And there's a
lot of things like I feel like I want to do and I want to help out and want to do this, but I'm just not able,
Right.
And that's another thing you got to admit too, is stop trying to please everybody. You need to take time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if you're married, it's hard because you gotta go to work, you gotta please the wife, you gotta please the kids, you gotta do all this stuff, and you gotta worry about everybody else, so you're not worried about you.
Yeah.
And when I got into, when I moved out and got into this apartment, I go, you know what? I got to work on myself. I should have done this decades ago.
Oh yeah, I've considered like I'm 36 now. I'm like, oh man, maybe it'd be nice to have kids by now or something. But then, God save that child. Like, thank God they weren't born. Because imagine this as a daddy. Like, I'm a nice fella most of the time, but like when it gets rowdy, it gets like it. I could imagine this being very traumatic for a kid, and like
Yeah.
and there is that recognition of, oh, I could be selfish and say, oh, well, maybe it'll make it better. It's not going to make it better. Adding someone to your problems doesn't make it better. And so, like, I had to have that realization of, like, I have to be the hermit. And it's not, I went a little too far and I dug into it and I isolated myself a little too extremely.
Well, that's what I do because when we go out, we get pissed off.
Right. And it's still
and I don't want to
difficult
go to jail.
like,
That's why I stay in here.
right. And it's such a thing, like, it's difficult to manage the anger. It's difficult because people on the outside are, I mean, such chicken shits. And, like, I'm sorry, folks, but really, like, it's embarrassing to see the public out there. Like, I don't care, liberal, Democrat, you're all really disappointing with just how chicken shit you are. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's a thing you need to hear. These just bullshit reactions of, oh no, it's a Nazi, it's a communist, it's a ghost. What the fuck is going on? Sit
portrayal
down and relax.
of Abraham Lincoln on here. Oh, well, he was a slave trader, one of those deals. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
just relax. Is it physically hurting you?
And it's difficult for us because we're trained to react to, and some of us not well. Like I said, I was a cook and I worked in the morgue, so it was well past time for the battle when I came to work. But like, we have it in us to react if things are crazy. And if you're signaling to us that it is crazy enough to elicit this behavior, then that is crazy enough for us to elicit another form of behavior. And so that's why we do need you to keep your shit together and relax. And it's unfortunate that this pressure is now on you, but you're standing next to a proximity alarm or something, and don't set it off. Sorry. Boo-hoo. Right. But like...
it's really hard with the COVID, because everybody's on edge. Everybody's cooped up, cabin fever. It's getting dark early at 5 frickin' o'clock. It's dark. So everybody's stressed out to the limit. So it's just hard. So civilians are on edge, military's on edge, and people, you don't know what people are dealing with. And it's hard for me as someone with PTSD to,
because we've read the scenario.
I'll be brash and I'll say it. Be worried about what the fuck you're doing in your life. I'm not worried. You stay out of my way, I'll stay out of yours. And when something comes into our way, we're bulldozers,
Right. And it's not necessarily graceful. It's not necessarily effective. It's not necessarily useful. It usually isn't any of those things. It's just that part of our brain is busted. And like, that's where, because like, I think de-escalation is a critical thing. And I understand the need to posture. We've discussed this in the Maslow. We've discussed this in why you do shitty things. We've covered it innumerably. And like, it's a guerrilla thing, just like the Hulk. It's not you. It's a pre-programmed thing. And you're just letting that thing go on autopilot. And it feels great. It is so... like the amount of relief you get from yelling at somebody and like, fuck you son of a bitch, and just digging in, and there's some, you get juices out of that because it's, it's in there because it thinks you're attacking a gazelle and eating it or something. But you need to be the better creature, and that's something we've had to teach ourselves, and it's difficult, and you don't know what's going to happen. And so the thing we have is like, oh, we got to stay inside because we don't get mad. But we want to go outside, so we work very critically on like, is this anything to give a shit about? And in most cases, no. Ben Mason used to say it all the time. It just doesn't matter. And it pissed me off at first, and then I liked it, and now I understand. Like, just do what you're doing, because it's going to do its own thing anyway.
Right. Well, we have triggers too. So, like, I think one of mine is anything being abused.
Bullies
And
fucking set me
I'll
off.
say it. A lot of it is animals with me,
Mm.
but people too. You know, if there's a woman and a guy's yelling at her, you know, that's one of my triggers. I'm going to go to that woman's aid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the guy. Unfortunately, I'm not the guy who's just going to walk through the parking lot and go, "Oh, that sucks," you know, and go in my shopping. I'm going to be like, "The fuck is the problem? You shouldn't be talking to her like this, or you shouldn't have your hands, or
Yeah.
you know, somebody." And that's how I'm programmed. That's why I stay the fuck inside so I don't go to jail.
Right. Right. Because it's like we don't live in a society where anybody's going to take criticism like that. Where we don't like we could say, "Hey, you motherfucker," and get someone's attention. Hey, get your shit together. That makes sense to us, specifically us. But like, if I was at say Lowe's and somebody's doing something, and all of a sudden, "Hey, you fucking get over here," they're not doing that. There's no
Right.
way. Who the fuck is this guy? It's not.
Well, and we
happening.
get well, like if I was gonna say to you, Steve, you're acting like an ass, lock it, or if I just said lock it up, you know exactly what that means.
Right. Right.
So you can't say that to a civilian and go lock it up, you know, and then everything's fine. They
Right.
realize, oh, I'm fucking up. Well, and the other part about the PTSD is I'm going to act like a complete lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not within my power. I'll feel bad about it, or probably feel bad about it later.
Yeah. Because
I'll probably feel horrible about it later. But right now, in the moment,
oh yeah.
you need to be removed from the situation.
Because it's not that thing isn't a box you unpack. It's a grenade every time, and it's a grenade and it's gonna do grenade shit, and you're gonna have to do grenade cleanup afterwards. But like until you have you find a way to take all that explosivity and do something else with it, it's going to remain explosive, and it's an inherently explosive thing. It needs to be. All that energy is designed to push itself out rapidly because it assumes that there's a threat coming towards it rapidly. So things are moving quick here. And it's a matter of like just as difficult as it would be to hold an explosion together, you're trying to do the same thing to yourself. So also don't beat yourself in the ass for it, because like you know how many people die in the process of just trying to get as far as however you are? Like each of us is further than someone else who failed. And it's a hard thing to remember because none of this feels like success. When you're suffering, it doesn't feel like you're winning. And it's hard to remember, like, oh, this is way less worse than before.
If you feel like that for that long, you think that's normal. You think that's the way you are. And that's not the way you should be. Like, if you're so dug, like when I first moved in here, I was so dug in my own head. I mean, that's why I got rid of all my guns. I would have used one if I had one here. Yeah. I mean, it's you get so down, and like I went through every mistake I ever made in my whole life whenever I could remember. I'm like, God, you're such a piece of shit. You did this when you were 8 and you did this when you were 12 and what a douchebag.
Have you ever done the exercise? I've done this exercise because I ran into this before where somebody was upset with me and I was like surprised because it didn't even faze me. It wasn't even anything I registered as a memory. And then so I just started here and there asking people about like shit that really embarrassed me as a person. And they have no fucking clue that even happened.
Right.
Like most
people, I've apologized for things that were on my mind to people and they're like, that happened?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well.
You're like, I almost slit my wrist in a bathtub for this. And they're like, I could give a shit.
Right.
And you're like, what?
Right.
What?
Like one thing, my daughter screwed up when she did something bad when she was little.
Mm.
So in order to teach her attention to detail, because I was in the military, I took a bunch of napkins, threw them up in the air. I said, pick them up, put them all back in a complete square, one on top of the other. You know, just it wasn't a bad, but I felt horrible for making her do that.
Right.
So I told her, I'm like, and she's like, I don't remember that.
But like, what's insane is like you feel bad. You're like, oh, I'm a piece of shit. But then, like, you've seen CSI and Law and Order and the stuff that, like, other people do. Well, that's fiction. Right. But, like, there are, like, actual bad parents and, like, actual people who, like, make mistakes. And that's, like, tedious, but that's not cruel. Like, there's nothing, it's shitty as far as activities go, as far as, like, fun. But there's nothing about that where it's, like, oh, she's going to become a stripper now because of the napkin thing. But, like, your brain's just like, just in case, let's save that. And my brain does the same thing, too, of, like, remember that time you crushed a frog with a log, you fucking sick piece of shit? I'm like, oh, leave me alone.
Yeah, you're like, I'm sorry, frog.
He doesn't remember. He's inside out.
It's like I made a deal with myself. I came along that we were in Chemical Ali, if anybody knows what that is. It was a pretty big deal. And there was a pit or like I don't know, whatever, but it was like a pit.
Like
there's dogs drowned in the bottom of it.
There was who?
And there was dogs.
Oh.
And one puppy, I remember, had the paw on the ladder to go up the thing. And I don't know if it was still alive or not, but I was like, we're not supposed to touch these things. You know, it's Chemical Ali. I don't know if I touch that water down there, if it's got some shit in it.
Right.
And I feel horrible about this little fucking puppy.
Right.
Like for years. Well, to this day, you know, that I didn't try to save that dog.
Right.
Never mind the 3 guys got blown up by the rocket that I'm screwed up over. I'm fucked up over a puppy.
Right.
Like I didn't. So I got this cat, and she had some problems with her, and she was in a bad house, and she like pretty much pulled off all her fur, and she's got most of it back now.
I had that problem.
But she's got her own little PTSD, OCD thing going.
Dude,
so we're kind of helping each other.
Like, when I got... Do you remember when I had, like, a dozen fucking cats for a minute and I was dying?
Oh, yeah.
And there were a couple cats in there that had been through some shit. And that was a weird realization I had, too, where I was like, what is this cat doing? I can't find it. And I was like, I'd do this. And it was right... I was like, oh, no. And then, like, I could see like, it didn't take care of itself. It literally just, like, stayed in a pile of filth. And then I looked at my bedroom with all the just shit around it, and I was like, okay. And that was one of the, not that, like, I guess that maybe kind of, like, illustrated it more clearly for me, but it is interesting to see that, like, these are animal instincts, these shitty things. It's not you intellectualizing a process, and you haven't come to this decision that you're a bad person. Like, this is just some ancient shit that cats and dogs feel this way. It's bananas.
But I mean, I said if I adopt this cat that was in kind of rough shape, I said, you know, that's kind of saying I'm sorry to the puppy that I didn't pick up in Iraq, you know?
Right.
So you kind of got to go, I didn't save that one, but I saved this one. So I reasoned with myself to get over it, kind of.
Right. And you could do that too. And it's not necessarily insincere, because it's not like the first thing is that sincere either, because like, who were you to save that dog? Like, no one's holding you responsible, no, you know. And so because it's already kind of an arbitrary responsibility, like, feel free to shift it where, because it's going to be what's beneficial. Like, you could dwell in the past, or you can use that information to understand that, like, okay, there's animals are not being paid attention to, let's pay attention to them. Or these people, you know, I've lost some people into this thing. I can't go back in time and save them. So let's hope no one else suffers this again. That's the most I can try. And that's, you know, again, goes back to your own expectations. I know a lot of people, when they start to feel good, they want to preach to the world on how to feel better. And usually pretty quickly they feel shitty again. And they're like, oh no.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm cautiously optimistic about this medicine, you know, because it's probably good for 3 days, and I'll be like, "You suck. You're no good. Kill yourself." Well, and that's the thing with my PTSD. Like, I can be having a great time, like, I don't know, at the bar or wherever, and be like having the greatest time, and my brain will go, "You should probably kill yourself right now. You're having a good time,
dude." Yeah. And then I've got that like weird OCD where anything I see, I figure out how I can put it in my eye for some reason. Which, that's a fun thing. But, like, it's why I don't like Christmas trees, because I just picture each one going in my eye. I count them like some weird Rain Man moment, and then I visualize each of them going into my eye. And that's me. Hey! But, like, what were we... I just freaked out thinking about it. What were we talking about?
A little bit of everything. I just freaked out thinking about it. I just scared myself. I peed a little.
I don't like to touch my eye, man.
No, just stuff that you remember that you gotta, you know, work through. Like, you know, like not saving a dog or Well, we were talking about when that specific thing happened, and I think mine is a collection of my whole time over there.
Mm-hmm.
But in the dreams and the nightmares are kind of all melded together. Now, sometimes they happen in different parts of the base where different things happen, but it's usually kind of around the same deal.
Yeah, yeah. I
but,
definitely have kind of a blending too, where because I also have a weird blending of like stories fitting into memories, and like there's some shit where I don't know if it's just a story or like
yeah.
which I mean that was part of my idea of thinking of like doing a fiction instead of an autobiography because like as I was writing the autobiography, I'm like I don't know if this happened. I'm like let's go ahead and
Yeah.
be
How do I
safe and
fact
just
check
call it
that?
fiction.
Well, just write it in a book like that.
But it is
Go on.
weird, like the details you get, because like you see a thing and you go, "Oh, this is what happened," and it
Well,
is that
yeah.
2 feet to the left, it's nothing what happened. No one saw that. You're like, oh,
Right. Well, this was a moving Humvee with guys going to chow. That's all they were fucking doing that morning was going to chow. A rocket happened to hit their moving Humvee.
Jesus.
So seconds, 1 or 2 seconds before or after, they would have been fine.
Right, going a little
You know,
fast, a little bit slower. Yeah, it's insane.
somebody got hung up and forgot the key. Well, not for Humvee, you don't forget the keys, but for whatever.
Well, and it's like, and I got sick, and it's like, oh, what happened? This, that, and the other. Like, oh, I probably just got sick. Like, it's statistically, it's a likelihood.
Yeah. But when those things happen to you, like we were talking, it's not like your brain goes, okay, you got PTSD now.
Right.
Things are weird. It's so gradual.
Yeah, it definitely takes a minute to realize you're doing it. Because, like, I noticed that I would
Well, it
just
took
start
years for me to
withdrawing.
figure out that I had it, PTSD.
Yeah, it probably took me a couple of months. And then I was like, uh-oh. And then it started to make some sense. Because
Yeah.
I think,
Only
it took
talking
like
to other
3-4
people.
months. Yeah,
Hmm?
most certainly. Because when I came back, I could not sleep. I could not fall asleep. And so I went to a shrink to be like, give me some sleeping pills. And they're like, not without therapy. I was like, fuck. And then so I did
Well,
the
and-
therapy,
and-
and they're like, you are fucked, dude.
For those people out there that are like, going through divorce and everything, when I moved into the apartment, I started sleeping a lot better because I didn't have to worry about the daughter pissing her off or saying something wrong or being, just a jackass.
Yeah.
Or I didn't have to worry about pissing the wife off because whatever pisses her off.
Right. Or like getting shrugged and then somebody catching an elbow. You're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. And the family means well and they know you have this problem, but I don't think they understand it to the part where like I would get mad and I'd go rah 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 rah, and just yell. And they'd be like, oh, that's too much. And after I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like that. Something triggered me.
Well,
I couldn't untrigger it. I couldn't undo the madness.
I haven't
I had
seen
to
it
pop
yet.
off at some time.
But I think in the new Joker or something, I don't know. I saw something attributed to it where he was talking about, you recognize that people are crazy, but then you get upset when they act crazy. And that's kind of a thing where people, there is this assumption of, oh, well, you have this, so now don't have it anymore. And
Right.
what the fuck are you talking about? It's the craziest assumption, but it's a natural assumption. I don't know, a lot of people have it, and a lot of people, that's where most of their suffering comes from. Is they're like, why aren't they doing this? Because they're nutty. Let them be nutty.
Well, and I think we're more worldly. Like the military, we have worldviews where
Right.
civilians only have their state, their county, their country.
They get
But like we look at all this stuff all around the world because we've always had to,
right.
and we see all this death and destruction and this and that, and you're like, oh, it just doesn't mean anything. And then Susie Q spilled her fucking latte on her and had a bad day.
Right.
I can't do people like that. I
No.
feel like ending them.
I got out of the food business because I couldn't stand dealing with customers because they were just cruel, shitty people. Most people are nice, but you'd have cruel, shitty people come through. And like I had this one lady when I was working, and I didn't make her salad, mind you. I was just getting it to her. And then she like grabbed me by the shirt and she's like, hey, are you fucking retarded? I was like, no, I'm fine. And she goes, I didn't ask for tomatoes, blah, 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 blah. I look at the ticket, it says salad with everything. I'm like, you asked for tomatoes, everything includes tomatoes, blah, blah, blah. she starts jumping in my shit, this, that, and the other. But like, I get, and this is the thing I said to her. I'm like, I get that this is a big deal for you, but you should understand how just precious your fucking life is. That this is the most important thing to you. That you think you should dehumanize someone and tear someone apart over a goddamn tomato. So be grateful that your life is that fucking awesome and piss off. And then I surprisingly wasn't fired from that job because I was fucking right. But like, there is so much of that. Like, Jesus Christ, I wanted blue lights and now I have red lights. Well, all right, move on. But there is that, like, we expect a thing, we don't have the expectation. And then I think there's this pause for so many people where either they don't have a plan B, they expect someone else to have a plan B, or whatever it is. But like, there's this, you can see it in people where they're looking and they're searching and like feeling of like, now what the fuck do I do? And then if I yell at this kid, that'll fix it. Oh, okay. Has that worked?
Yeah.
Oh, and I wonder if like, is that a schooling thing? Because when the fuck did that work? Who told that lady that that was acceptable behavior? Like, how did her parents illustrate to her that that's how you get things done? Who illustrated to her? Like, was it her parents? But like, what kind of, who said to this person, being shitty is going to get you by? And like, that kind of base level nonsense is so fucking infuriating, and I don't have time for it.
But that could be, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, that could be me having a bad day. Like, getting triggers can be, you didn't get enough sleep that night.
Oh, yeah.
So your whole day's fucked. So I go in and I'm already having a bad day, and you give me tomatoes. I'm not having it. That was it. In my mind, that was the last step of the fuckery for the day.
Right. Oh, and then I check myself in those too. Like
but like, some of us can't.
No, and that's a skill we have to develop.
I get locked in,
and that's part of taking that responsibility of even if it's a matter of just saying, "Here we go," before it starts, just let people know it's coming, or that I found that also allows recovery to happen much quicker. If I'm like, okay, I'm not going to react well to this, I apologize, and it's about to get weird, and people are like, what? And I'm, and then when I come back, I'm like, I told you.
Now I'm at that point.
It's a skill that has to be developed.
Yeah, because, yeah, and I just realized, and I have my weed pen with me wherever I go. I do not just keep it at home.
Yeah.
Because if my wife would have, I put it on my wife. If I would have stopped when I started getting mad and just said, okay, I'm going to smoke for about 15 minutes.
Yep.
Or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And after that, and after I had a cigarette or some weed, usually weed.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh my God, this is so fucking stupid. What did you do? You almost ended your marriage because you're so stupid.
Oh, and I mean, just as anecdotal, but it's got to tell you something. Like, my dad has been a deputy for 40 years, or he's retired now, but it's got to let you know it's working if he's been through, like, he became a deputy in the 70s. So his opinions on weeds were formulated as a law enforcement officer in the 70s.
Right.
Through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, all that shit. And if he will say, hey, go out back and smoke a doob real quick, that lets me know, like, all right, this is probably doing something. Of, like, if he's going to go ahead and throw out his, mores that he's built up over the years on this shit, of just like, hey, how about you go back and chill for a minute? And, he says it with a better tone, because I think that tone might throw me off. But, like, hey, you want to go out back and burn one? I'm like, probably a good call. And, like, you do need to be, because I think it's a skill on both parties, too. Like, if you have a relationship with people, if you have friends, if you can see somebody starting to build, both parties really need to be involved in bringing it back down, because otherwise it's going to be a process of, like, understand then that if we're not bringing this back down, that we're both cleaning this up or something like that. But, like, that has to be understood, and it sucks, especially if, like, oh, Jesus Christ, this person is so much work. Sorry, we are, but we're getting there. Like, and the effort's there, because, like, once you have me back in order, I'm going to take over the goddamn world. And
that's the other thing is we stay away from people when we're feeling bad. But when we're feeling good, like now, I've pretty much pushed everybody I know away.
Right.
I mean, except for the really close people, my sister and her family and, the daughters and all that. But
Yeah, you definitely keep like 5 people on a list, and then everyone else is like, "I'll see you in 10 years. I'll let you know."
yeah, so like Steve, I call, you I call if I'm feeling weird or I got ideas or I'm just feeling like shit. Go, do you ever feel like this? And just hearing, yeah, man, I used to do that or I do that now makes me feel better.
Oh
Be
yeah,
like, okay,
it
I'm
gets
not
rid
the
of that
only dude
like,
that.
because I get put in there like, "Oh, you fucking freak! Nobody else is doing it." Like, who else is? Oh, everybody,
Right.
or at least not enough people to know that it's not just me, which is
And you may
significant.
think it's the weirdest thing, like I only wear a right shoe. Be like, hey, Steve, do you only wear a right shoe? Be like, yeah.
It's only when I masturbate.
It's the weirdest thing. When I masturbate, I only wear one shoe.
It's just so I
But
stay in the room and go in a circle. It's a thing.
yeah.
That's what circle jerks
But
are, right?
there's a cracker involved somewhere.
That's why I stayed out of West. Well, plus I couldn't read. But
And the worst part is I never learned to read.
my favorite thing that I do have from West Point is I have a challenge coin. It's not even a challenge coin. It looks like a challenge coin on one side. It says class of 2002, I think. On the back, it's just whatever. It's a keychain. But it's hilarious because if you look at my coins, like, oh, you got a West Point or, a West Point coin. Where'd you get that for? Or from? It's like, oh, I got that from the gift shop. And so I have like 3 or 4 really interesting ones that I got from a gift shop. Just like I'd be like, that's from General so-and-so. That's from so-and-so. That's from the gift shop. That's from, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, and at some of the AFI stands, you could send in their like postcard and get a free coin.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we went to Germany and they had that. So I got some of those like freebies.
Yeah, they're fun. I like design, so I'm not gonna beat myself up too much for buying neat little designs, but
Yeah.
it is a funny
Well, and
thing to have hidden.
I designed a coin in Iran and we had it made.
I designed a few. I've had probably like 5 or 6 coins made. I like them because the weight is interesting, but like the challenge of the design itself is interesting because you have to put a lot of stuff in an inch or so, and then understand that a lot of that detail is going to disappear because of like how it gets made. So it is kind of fun to like figure out how to make it look like you want to fill the space, but you don't want it to look like it's just insanity. There needs to be like a rhythm and I don't know, all the art shit. It's fun. Make a little work.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we should make more coins. I've got a few designs. It's going to cost like... Oh, speaking of which, teespring.com/stores/deployed-from-Detroit. We have t-shirts and sweatshirts and shit. Please help us raise money that way. It will help us. But that's probably about as aggressive as we'll get with the browbeating on buy our shirts.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, and we'll have a commercial on Facebook every 5 posts.
We do punish ourselves by not marketing, but
when you feel better, you're like, holy shit, I was wasting all this time and all that, I could have found this.
Yeah, that's where I come up, like, in my mind, I say it a lot, the idea that enlightenment is embarrassing. That there is a thing about enlightenment that makes it embarrassing. And I wonder if that's what causes people to recoil from it. Because then they're like, oh, I don't want people to know I've wasted the past 36 years thinking this. No one's going to. Like, also, they've been wasting their entire life doing something else, so...
Well, yeah, and you could get mad, too. I mean, I didn't, but you could get mad, too, going, why didn't somebody put me on this before,
Right.
Like, I think a lot of physicians want you to be on it for like a month because I think it takes at least 2 weeks to get the full effect out of it.
Yeah, you do need to try them out for a while and figure out, like, is this going to sit with me?
Well, the one I have now, after like 2 weeks, I'd be like, no, this isn't working. She goes, well, let's try something else.
Yeah.
Where a lot of them like to go, you may only, they'll have you on it for a month or two and go, well, let's see how this goes,
Mm-hmm.
Where they want to sit and wait and see, where they're like, no, you need to get aggressive with this.
Yeah, I've had a few where we've tried like a couple of years at a time, and that was not helpful.
Yeah. Well, there's years of down in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just thousands of hours wasted.
Yeah, and I've been thinking on that too. Like, is that time wasted? And like, if I don't use it, it is. And
well, you're not. I mean, there's been days, and I used to laugh at people. Go, oh, I stayed in bed all day. I felt like, I felt so down, and then I started doing it, and I literally all day
Yeah.
would just lay in bed,
That'd be kind of nice.
and I'd be like, holy shit, I can't. I'm 46. I would be like, what's the next 40 years going to be like for me? I was like, if it's going to be like this, I'm not having it.
Yeah, there is that, like, it's such a fucking thing, because it's such a powerful set of feelings that you have to, like, it's
You have to fight to stay alive every day.
yeah, and it enjoying life becomes learning to enjoy life on a roller coaster. You're being forced through these very severe things, and you have to find a way to enjoy it anyway. Like, I kind of hate roller coasters a lot. Indoor ones I'm kind of cool with. I'm a little bit afraid of heights because I always want to jump off them. Don't know what that is, but it's weird. But, like, there is a similar thing of where I can feel my heart racing, like I can, and I have to start approaching it with that same enthusiasm. I could either be the same 12-year-old who's pissing himself in line for the Junior Beast at Cedar Point, or that's probably at Kings Island or something. But I could be that kid forever, or I could be like everyone else who's somehow having a good time. And it never made sense to me. Like, why are these fuckers smiling? Why are they doing all this? And then it's just a matter of doing that. And it sounds stupid and it sounds insulting. Like, oh, if I just smile, I'll be happy. Mechanically, you'll be happier. And it's bizarre. And it shouldn't make sense. But it's in there. And, like, if you force yourself to smile, it starts pumping shit in your head where it's like, maybe it knows something we don't know. And then there's all these things you have to learn, and it's such a fucking process. And like before, it sometimes, a lot of times, does not feel like you're winning. And it's hard to gauge your success that way.
Well, and you make so many mistakes trying to figure out what works. Is like I told the wife, there's only so many times I can say I'm sorry before you realize that I go through this. This is a process, I yell, I feel bad, I apologize, and then a month goes by, and then I yell, and I feel bad, and I apologize, and then a month goes by.
Right, and it's not like this is a planned thing, or this is like, oh, I can't wait till Thursday comes, I get to fucking rip into her. No, it's just
right.
That, it's like the tides at times. These are things. It would be marvelous if we could be as in control of our own lives as people expect us to be, and we expect of ourselves. But I really believe no one is really in that much control over anything. It's an asinine assumption to just assume that, like, well, I work out and do this. Well, you could still drop dead of a fucking heart attack tomorrow. Like, yes, there's stuff you can do to improve a thing. Yes, there's things you can do to make it worse. But you can always be hit by a piano. Like, it's a thing.
Well, and when you're down, you think of everything. You think, oh, well, why should I go do this? It doesn't matter. Everybody dies in the end. Or, like, why should I go do this? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Everybody dies in the end.
Right. Fuck
and
this. This is dumb.
You're so stuck.
It takes a minute of, like, it took a while for me to get sick of how I talk. Of where, like, and I'll catch myself talking, and then I'll catch myself again. And I'll be like, you dumb motherfucker. Hey, knock it off. And, like, I talk to myself like a child. And, like, that's my own therapeutic behavior. But
no, I do that too. I'll be like, what the fuck are you doing, dumbass?
And sometimes it's needed. And, like, and I was wondering, like, am I more abusive with myself because I'm expecting someone else to be there saying abusive things to me? But then, like, in that same mindset, that's where I kind of interrupt with, like, well, someone should also be saying, like, I know full well as somebody who teaches leadership and shows people how to lead one another that being shitty to them is not going to get anything done. So if I want to get actual results out of myself, I need to, like, and it's a crazy exercise because the things you're thinking about don't make much sense. But the idea of stepping out of yourself in these moments, and it's crazy, but, like, imagine your engine's not working and then you just stay in the car and figure it out. all of us in our head are at some point going to go like, maybe we should look under the hood. And how do you do that as a human? And I think you have to find your own way. And some of us do it through talking to ourselves or leaving notes or doing this, that. But like there, we've said it before, there's a number of chunks of your body that don't speak English. And you got to figure out how to talk to them. It's rough.
Yeah. So I'm just saying there's hope out there. Just keep at it.
Yeah.
And, like my brother-in-law, he'll just, through all this stuff, and he was mad at me for a while because I was rude, which is understandable. Yeah. But he's always been there. Even go, hey, what's up, bro? Thinking about you. Or, hey, did you get this computer part yet? Or he's always been and I remember that. And that you remember the people that were always there, and you're thankful for those people. My sister too.
And one thing I had to remember too is that, like, if people weren't getting back to me, maybe I had to be that person in their life, because maybe they were going through the same shit, or maybe they are just busy. But the more I talk to people, the more I hear other people who are just down in the shitters, and they're not talking to people because they don't want to talk to me. I don't want to bum them out with this, that, and the other. And bum me out. Go for it. Do your fucking best. Try me.
But like your buddies, like if you call me, I will pick up at any time, any hour, wherever I'm at. Because I know you're in a place where I'm at, and there's other buddies I have like that. And then there's other people that I look at the phone, I go, I'm not picking it up. But
yeah, you're like, give me a minute.
Yeah. But, there's always...
Or sometimes it's like, just give me a minute. Because, like, I need to get in the headspace because I'm busy punching a toaster. And I'd like to talk to you about fun stuff, but I'm...
It's some weird shit we do.
Dude, it is hilarious. Like, when it's not terrifying and sad, it's fucking hilarious. If you're in it and you're like, oh no, it can be one of those, oh no. But if you step back and then just put some like silly music on it and fun angles, it's a goddamn comedy. You're scared of a box, you idiot? That's hilarious. That's a Tom and Jerry episode right there.
Well, how I calm myself down, we're talking about people touching your ankles, is when I was a kid, you learn to swim, and then those swim rafts are at people's houses where you swim out to and you sunbathe on them or jump off them.
Yeah, we used to have them.
To get out there, there's usually plant life that grows up, and you usually got to swim through that. Ooh, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But I have to. That's how I think of it, and that's how I deal with it. Is to calm myself down. You would go nuts if that shit touched your ankles, but and it does. It touches
I would find
your
a way
body.
to set that lake on fire.
Yeah, you just think they're gonna pull you down and fucking suffocate you, but that's what I have to do. Is I'm 10, 12 years old again, trying to relax myself to swim out to the swim platform with these underground trees growing around me.
Yeah.
And touching me as I swim, and I'm like,
well, it's got to be like in a fun idea for things to like draw and put together, because it is a hilarious Disney movie. If so Beauty and the Beast, she's running around talking to the plates and stuff. And then if you zoom into my house, it's me getting into a fight with a box over like some really deep existential shit. You're like, what the fuck is... It's this madness of like, it's a Toy Story thing. And like for me, that's a thing where the way like the instinctual, like the way it starts to come out, like, you fucking asshole, get your shit together, blah, 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 blah. But then it's like, who the fuck... I don't talk to people like that. I talk to myself like that. And I'll talk to like boxes and doorknobs and things I bump into like that. But I don't talk to like humans like I don't understand it. And like if a person gets caught in the crossfire, I may talk to them like that. But that's usually the only reason, is they got in the middle of me in this box fucking talking about what we need to talk about, touching my goddamn ankle.
Well, like going to the grocery store for me. God, I fucking hate going to the grocery store.
Dude, fuck
and
that
these
place.
people, they got their cart in one side of the aisle, and then they're on the other. They're in the same aisle, blocking the whole fucking aisle. I used to get pissed off and go, "Excuse me," or "Coming through," or "Watch your six." Now I don't say anything. I grab their cart and physically fucking move. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm going, getting your shit out of my way. And I say it in a tone where they 99.9% of the time don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm tired. And I talked to my counselor too, and she's like, do you get mad at stupid people? I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. She goes, yeah. She goes, all my vets get that.
Yeah.
She goes, one guy went on an hour rant about stupid people. And
I
I'm
think it's like a dummy
too.
kill thing. Because we see that your failure to pay attention is something that gets other people killed. And your just nonchalantness with just how devastating your behavior is right now is infuriating. To me, that's the first few, that's all free association.
Well, and I think I wouldn't do that to you. Why in the fuck are you doing it to me?
Right. Like, have some awareness of what you're doing. But,
yeah.
And I think, too, some of it comes to, there's probably a slim percentage of those people who are true shitheads. Most of them don't realize they're doing it, and then the rest don't realize it's even a thing. Well, that's the thing,
too. Is you may have a mom looking at stuff to get for the family, and I'll move her thing, and now I lost it.
I try to stay as polite as I can.
Oh yeah, because they're unaware. Yeah.
Yeah. Because just in case.
You feel bad because you're like, move your fucking cart. Jesus Christ, you can't look at fucking something and keep your cart by it. And this poor lady is just going shopping for some mac and cheese to feed her kids for lunch.
Right.
You ruined her whole fucking day. So that's another thing to feel bad about in your depression. So you chalk that up to the thousands of fucking things you've already done that you remember every single one. I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, and when I was 6, I fucking started the bathroom on fire, or whatever.
And we have to recognize that we require that amount of thought and we require that amount of effort, and it's a practice thing. We have to recognize that because we did it once, that doesn't mean we're going to do it again. It's like any kind of training. You have to do it over and over. You have to repeat it, understand it. You have to try it in different places, and that's why. For people with anxiety, I still suggest going ahead and trying marijuana, and I'll tell you, it's probably going to cause a panic attack. But it's also how I induced a panic attack so that I could practice having panic attacks.
Try now. Most people think pot is just pot. Indica. Try indica. If you people are out there with anxiety, depression, and want to try it, go indica first.
Yeah, it's much more.
And then you can branch out, because if you have sativa and you have panic attacks, you're gonna blow up.
And here's where those panic attacks come from too, for most of you folks, is that you're perceiving more stuff, and the paranoia is you're getting more information, and you don't know what to do with the information, and you're assigning it to shit. And that's one thing. But then the other part is, your heart will start to race. So you're getting information, you're assigning it different things, and so if your default is, I'm going to die right now, then boop, you're just in that mode. And so, and that's something I learned, and I can say that and until you felt it and maybe go, okay, but it's not something you're going to get until you smoke pot and have a panic attack and go, this is it's just doing this. And then, but again, don't try it without talking to somebody, or, put some thought into this shit for sure. But we have to understand that there's effort, there's experiment. We don't know what we're doing, and not many people do. And oddly enough, we're at a weird place in human history where it took us, how many millions of years to start asking these kind of questions as thoroughly as we do now?
Right.
Why a person feels a thing. So, don't beat yourself up, because you're already doing that. And, one thing I was talking about with Paul, it's a hard thing to recognize, because, I have a self-esteem problem. I know Paul does. I'm guessing you probably do, too. I think it's just built into it. And when I abuse myself, something I was failing to understand is that is unpleasant for others. And so I am, in abusing myself, so I'm not being nice to other people. I think I may just be hurting myself, and that's a dickhead thought, because it's not true. I'm hurting other people. Anybody who sees me hurt myself, who says, I love that person and I don't want to see them talk to themselves like that or treat themselves like that, I'm just spitting in their fucking face. Right. Or someone who says they like my paintings, or like the things I write, or they like this, or they like that, and I say, they're just being nice. That's me calling them a fucking liar. And so that's not kind either. And so, like, that's something I really had to. I was going out of my way to be shitty to myself in such a way that it was causing me to be shitty to other people.
You punish yourself too a lot.
Every day.
Like, there's nobody around. If I realize with PTSD, if you're real bad, you need to go somewhere and be by yourself for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a hunting cabin or somebody's house or something, and you got to work on you first. And it's not till I got out of the situation to go, I gotta fix me before I can fix anything else.
Well, because you're kind of like simplifying the equation. Because you've got this variable, you've got this person's perceptions, that person's perceptions, their needs and requirements, and like you're simplifying. You're simplifying it down to, like, yes, it sucks that this position is as it is if you want it to suck, but it's also good that in isolation you can observe which of these thoughts are accurate, which of these thoughts are inaccurate, which of these are beneficial. You can practice shit.
In the 3 months that I've been living on my own, I've realized so much more shit than when I was at the house with everybody there.
Right, and it's hard for some people to hear that because they're like, oh no, what was I doing? Nothing. You weren't doing anything. We're crazy enough as is. It's just there's a lot of noise, and we need to limit that noise until we can need to narrow it down because the clutter is not helpful.
Yeah, so I mean, alone time being constructive. Like, I'm still trying to figure out my triggers. She's like, do you know what your triggers are? And I'm like, 1 or 2, but I don't know how many I have, or if that's one of them. Huh?
You're like, that's one of them, goddammit. I have like tapping sounds and things touching my ankle by surprise. And like, for me, I've noticed it's certain kinds of surprises or certain things that are just like...
Well, like loud noises.
Loud noises are a big one. And
see, unlike the month around 4th of July, I understand it's coming. So if I understand it's coming, I'm a little less off. Now, if I'm driving down the street and the guy he's driving next to me, his tire blows and I'm not fucking expecting it, I'm going to lose my shit.
Yeah, and it takes a minute to figure out... Because I think I'm in a position where, like, I'm less likely to lose my shit, but it's still a big possibility. And it's still going to look like it's about to happen. Like, I can get to the point where...
on the right medication, and it's hard to get through, and it could take years, decades. For me, it took 12 years.
Same here.
And I'm not saying it's right now. Like, we talked about medication where it may seem great for the first few days or a week, but then after that, you're back to the same old.
Yeah. It's a grueling process, but it is worth it. Like, you do come out on the end as... Because the other thing, too, is that you can help other people get through it. Once you've made your way through the maze, you can guide other people. And that is something that is irreplaceable. You know, and maybe it takes you a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades or, you know, you're just getting better from Vietnam. Like, fucking take as much time as you need. What you went through was insane. So just...
Well, and having somebody to talk to like you is good, too, because... I'm not the only one going through it. You gotta find a buddy that is either understanding or has been through it. And like Steve, you've been through totally different shit than I've been.
Right.
And Paul's been through totally different shit than me. But
well, and that's the nice thing too, is like when you start talking to people, you realize like, yeah, there are these big dramatic kind of differences, but they're only dramatic sort of in really minute ways. And then you start to see that like they're just these very minor differences on the top of this big large thing that we all kind of share of like it doesn't matter how you get pushed into the pool. You could go off a diving board, somebody could push you, you could step in on your own, you're in the fucking pool. And for so many of us, like once you're just in the PTSD pool or the depression pool or the anxiety or schizophrenia, whatever your pool is, we find that it doesn't matter how you got in, you're fucking in. And you can kind of just speak that language to anybody.
Right. Well, and like family's a hard time too. Because I think we're like the alcoholics of the family, you know, it's just Uncle crazy
Right.
nuts over there.
It is
And
easy to just be like, oh, like dismissing us is super easy because then you don't have to do any
yeah,
work. You're like, yeah.
right.
But
And we are work. We are.
yeah,
It's unfortunate, but we are work.
we're aware of it too, so we know it's not
And
fun in
those of
high.
us who smoke pot, just when we start getting up, go smoke.
Yeah, yeah, and
And I'm serious. It just 10, 15 minutes, we're right as rain.
and you like you might get somebody like I think most vets would respond well to that. Like you don't have to jump in the ship if you go, hey, outdoors. They might go, okay. There's
Yeah,
just a thing
yeah,
in us
we
where like
wouldn't.
that's a better idea than this one.
Well, I might go, what? Oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and
it's simple. It's to the point. Like like I said, lock it up or whatever.
mm-hmm.
We get it.
That's
It's keywords. You can be a civilian, and go lock it up, and I'll still do it.
oh yeah. I'll be confused for a minute. I'm like, who the fuck is this? All right, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to find those and find it with yourself. The things you have to say to yourself. Do you have to put yourself at
You got to
ease?
forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself for a lot of things.
It is. That was something Paul and I were talking about too, where the self-esteem thing of like, why do I think I'm a piece of shit? Oh, because I have a catalog of all my sins buried into my mind.
Right.
None of you know the things I've done bad unless I've told you or you've seen it.
Well, and it gets confusing because you're feeling bad about so many things. You're like, well, Jesus Christ, was it because my mom or dad did something wrong when I was a kid, or was it because I had a weird boss? Like I know people that have PTSD just from bad bosses.
Yeah. Of like people who
And
won't go to the hospital because they're afraid of. You're like, all right,
yeah,
and then you're like,
but
oh, that was a problem.
you got to forgive yourself, and it's hard. It's hard, and you got to mean it. I mean, you can't just go, oh, I forgive you. Like I had to make a deal with myself with the cat,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't feel bad about the dog.
Because like
Whatever works.
I can guarantee, as like an expert in suffering, an expert in how bad humans can get, most of us are pretty great. Even the shittiest of us are trying something out. Like there are some just sad sacks out there, but they're afraid, or they're dumb, or they're this, or they're that. Like I don't know. And that's something like when we get angry, that's the thing we have to remember is like whatever helps you to calm it down, but they may not know that they've crossed the line. If it's not painted on the ground, then they don't know they've crossed it. If you haven't made it clear, or if it's just some arbitrary shit in your head, I won't go through the whole bit, but Kyle Kinane had a awesome bit where he kind of just boiled it down to the gist of it was don't make your problem someone else's problem. And that hit me of like, oh yeah, because he was talking about like the specifically like seeing somebody at the bank and then having a crush on them. He's like, don't make it their problem, just admire and move on. But
You're right.
I thought about that too of like what problems of my own was I sharing that didn't need to be shared, or it's a weird
Well,
one.
no, my problem is not saying the words of what happened.
Yeah.
Like I would dance around it, but I never said the words. Until I found somebody that I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then I think once you start to admit that and go, okay, well, these guys got blown up by that rocket, and I saw pieces of them.
And I feel like sometimes my words are hidden from me. Like I'm trying to reach for them, and then they get pulled away, and I'm like, I don't know. I was gonna say
Would
something.
you ever get like, you'll have a memory, like a kind of a flashback, and it'll be kind of blurry and this and that, but in your dreams, it's like crystal clear.
Yeah, dude. It's like raw
So it's like-
information.
My mind's kind of trying to forget, but then you're like, oh man, that dream was something else, man.
Yeah, and I wonder like how many versions, like how many changes have the dreams added? Like, is that
Right.
the raw data? Does it just feel raw, or is it?
Well, and I didn't know that your sleep and your nightmare can be a trigger.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude, that's why I wake up. I'm so fucking angry in the morning because I sleep so badly, and I have to just very purposely. Like, I'm usually a pretty chipper person, but when I'm in these moods, it is not fun. And like, there's a lot of times where I wake up and I'm just furious right off the bat, and I can tell like
Right.
I must not have slept at all last night.
that's not the time you want to call customer service about renewing your phone.
No, dude, no. That's
Seriously,
like,
I've gone days where I felt mad and I would not call things that I needed to call because I know I'd get in an argument.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, where it's like this is not going to be, and I've had that a few times where like, again, it goes back to the skill of like I found myself going, all right, motherfucker. Oh, sorry, hang on. That you don't deserve any of that, and that's just coming out of a weird place, and I'm letting you know, blah blah blah, and like, it's a matter of like, oh shit, the bear's out, and then you got to figure out what to do with the bear, but like, yeah, dude.
Well, and I think another thing with us too is people don't know how to treat us, so they treat us with kid gloves, and then we get upset because we feel, you know.
Yeah.
Well, like say you go to Thanksgiving and you got Uncle Jimmy that likes to talk about politics, and that's one of your triggers or whatever.
Right.
You know, call ahead and say, "Hey, listen, could you tell everybody to keep the politics talk out today? You know, don't be afraid to ask for things."
Right.
Not you know, like, will Jimmy only wear a red bow tie with green socks? No, but you know, if you know that's a trigger, just explain to them or at dinner go, listen, this is a trigger for me. I don't want to go off on you guys. I love all of you. So if we could not or keep it to a minimum about this.
Yeah.
I don't, or you're going to suffer in silence and just get up from the table pissed off and go outside.
And then you can also, if they're not taking it seriously, say, I'm not coming back because you don't take this seriously. And I'm letting you know that this is unfortunate, but I'm not coming to your house ever again.
Right.
So, goodbye. Because, and maybe it doesn't have to be ever again or whatever,
I mean,
but
we're
like,
really good at getting rid of people too.
If I know for sure that me going there is going to suck, I'm not fucking going. And I'm not going to pretend that I should somehow be a better person by suffering through this. Like, that's asinine. That's a dumb requirement. That's a dumb requirement. Oh, this is going to suck, but you have to because of some nonsense obligation. No one's going to die.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Is anyone going to die as a result? No. Is anyone going to get sick as a result? No. Then you're fine. Carry on.
I mean, you look like the bad guy because, like, ever since I got PTSD, I never went to almost anything of my wife's. Well, nothing of my family's.
Yeah.
And then I go, and I felt bad for her because she had to, for a while, we didn't know what I had.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just like, always sick, always got to work, always got to do this. It was always an excuse. And then when the doctor finally said, yes, you have PTSD, then she told her family, and they kind of got it.
Yeah.
You know, and the pieces all fit together. But, I mean, doesn't mean I'm still going to fucking go.
Right.
I mean, too many people weird me out. And if you know somebody's going to be there that you don't get along with and you don't see the views, that's fine. You don't have to agree on views. But I don't want to be set off by you. And
if somebody wants to work on it, let's not do this here. Let's go have lunch somewhere else if we want to get our issues across. But, like, let's not fuck up everyone else's holiday. Let's not make our problem their problem.
Right.
Which, yeah, it sucks. You have to pick and choose when to be a hermit and when not. Because it is advantageous to hermit up and stay indoors every now and again. But then you also have, like, that muscle can get very comfortable and then you can end up in complete isolation. And that is horrifying because then you've got no one to check your thoughts. And then it's just you in a room bouncing bad ideas off yourself. And I get into that rut sometimes if I'm too isolated for too long, is I'll just start repeating dumb thoughts. I get in these like rumination cycles of things that just aren't evidenced. But I keep saying them and they're in there.
Right.
But a lot of times, you know, you need someone to go, hey, that's dumb, stop. Oh, okay. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, there's times that you just need to talk or bullshit or hear another person's voice. You know, just to reconnect. Like, I found that since I'm feeling better, I want to talk to more people. I want to get back into doing things and going out. And, you know, but we'll see how long it lasts. But, you know, hopefully this will stick. And I'm so desperate to be normal, you know, ish.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll always have it, and it'll always be a problem, but it's learning how to deal with it. And these poor guys and gals that don't know what to do, you know, I feel bad for them. I've been there, you know. You just feel like you're going nuts and nobody understands.
Yeah.
And call an old buddy from your detachment or your platoon or whatever the hell you call it, squadron. and go, hey man, I tried calling the Veterans Crisis Line 3 times. Nobody ever picked up and hung up on me all 3 times.
Oh shit. I wonder if they
Yeah.
were busy. Hopefully.
And I mean, I was at a low
Yeah. We'll
when
have
I,
to call
you
them and
know, to
figure out
call
what that's about.
them. But no, I mean, like just talking to you or talking to my other buddy Sean or makes, you know, I got different friends for different things, and you can not weird. It's just, you know, like I got one buddy I talk to just to bullshit about life. One, we always talk about race, you know, just to bounce ideas back. I did see a little person on a commercial. You know, that notice the commercials are all mixed now. You know, mixed race, mixed colors, mixed everything now. It's like an explosion.
Nice.
I saw the first little person on there today, and I was like, "Oh, everybody's being represented now."
Hey now. That'd be cool.
But
we'll get orcs
no,
and
but
goblins
I mean,
next.
just people to talk to, and even if you don't want to talk, because there's days you just don't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Just text, you know, just text somebody. Like my brother-in-law, hey, what's up, bro? And I was like, oh, he took the time to think about me, and I think that's what I was missing in the marriage. We were just became best friends or good friend, you know, and it's nobody's fault, you know. I got to work on me. I don't expect her to wait around for me to get sane.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of like. It's hard to come up with those decisions too. Of like, is this? It doesn't feel like a good idea, but yeah, like you. If there's something in you that's like I need to be alone, figure out what that is, or I need to do like whatever the changes you need to make in your life. Put some thought into it. Like don't go on impulse, but like understand. Start to determine why you have that impulse. I think at least that's a way I find some success in controlling the impulsivity is like managing it as best I can. Like if I'm gonna compulsively shop or something, I can compulsively shop all day as long as I just throw it in the shopping cart, and then I only hit buy like once a week, and then maybe on Friday I'll see if there's anything in there I actually want to get, and then throw most of it out, and that's a personal technique there, but like understanding why do I have this compulsion to stay indoors, and that's what you're gonna find a lot of help with a therapist from, and they're going to guide you through that process of they're getting to it.
Yeah, they kind of focus you where you're trying to get better, and they just kind of focus you in,
because it's it's not like they have the answers, but they have a guide, and that's what you need. You're going to find the answers. You just need some tools to get you through. That's where the drugs are going to come in, and some tools are good, some tools aren't good, and some guides are helpful and some guides aren't helpful, but it's a process. It's not you don't take a pill and it goes away. That's never what's happening here. It's that you're a mountaineer now, and so you need a new kind of backpack and a new kind of shoes and a new kind of you're going into a new environment with you need new skills and all kinds of shit. And don't have the same expectations for yourself that you have for other people, because that's not fair for you and for them. You have to develop honest expectations, and you might undersell yourself, especially if you got any kind of depression, PTSD or something.
I noticed a routine is working good for me.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had a routine, and then I was
I'm not strict on it, but just having some kind of routine where I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
Like between 12 and 3 or 12 and 2, I might take a nap or something.
That's like, I have with a lot of people, I say, like, all my appointments I schedule are between, like, 1 p.m. and, like, 3 p.m. If I have a doctor's appointment, we're doing it somewhere in that window. If, like, somebody calls me after 7 or after 8 or, like, whatever the time in my head is of, like, we're done today, we're not talking, then tomorrow everyone gets a call at about 1. And like that's just my kind of doesn't work on anyone else's calendar, and it doesn't need to, because whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you find those things of like, I stay up till usually between 2 and 4 in the morning, sometimes as late as 7, and I usually wake up anywhere from like 10 to 1. And it's because if I do anything different, I don't sleep at all. And so This is how I get the most amount of sleep. And so whatever, it works. I do what I do. Like,
Or
and it
or you're
sucks,
just gonna smoke down really hard.
right? Well, because that's one of the things too. It's like, oh man, I want to go out and like get a job or do something. It's like, well, you're on disability, shithead. So pay attention. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be expecting those things of myself, since the government is expecting me to stay home on my crippled ass. So I don't have to listen to them and stay home on my crippled ass. But
Well, and with
I should
us, it
listen that
wouldn't
someone
last
believes
long.
that.
With us, it wouldn't last long because there's going to be something that happens.
Yeah,
Something.
dude. I'm gonna say something to somebody, or I'm gonna be late for. I'm gonna be late a bunch of times. That's gonna happen. You know.
Or I'm just going to come in.
Yeah, because
Depends.
it's fine, but like that's also part of like why we're starting our business, because if we want to participate in the economy, it's not going to work in any of these other agencies. Like we're going to be dog shit employees for them. So we're trying to come up with a place where we can be less than dog shit employees, which that's not a bad move. I think that's an
Yeah.
okay goal. And if we can be a little bit less than dog shit, that's something anybody on disability can do. And so like there is that part too of like if you want to help other people, figure yourself out first, because that gives you some insight. It's not, your experience is unique and other people can have different experiences, but like it doesn't discredit your experience as something to compare, or you got to finish going through it first, which
Mm.
and it's hard. You never know
Well,
that if you're through it, or you never know. I don't know. It will make
well, my
sense.
my phone's about to die, brother.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. So we're gonna call it, folks. It's an early one. We've been at it for as long as we have. But check out the store on Teespring. Search for Teespring Deployed from Detroit. You'll find our stuff. Website, deployedfromdetroit.com. Email is dfd.slm@deployedfromdetroit.com. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Social media, you understand what's happening here. We're closing it up. You know how this works. It's the internet already, folks. I love you. What are you up to, buddy?
I love you more.
Hey now. All right,
I miss
gang.
you already.
We're going to get the fuck out of here. Go do some warrior stuff, all right? Bye.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right. Adios, amigo.